Welcome to Fandom Post Radio. Hey, I'm Kestrel. I thought Kate would be here, but she's not, so I'm here. We have DJ. Hey. And we have Brandon.
Hello.
And yeah, we're talking about winter 2023 now. Whatever is left of it, because apparently it's 2020 again. Everything's going on hiatus. One piece of news before then. Piece of news we've been waiting for, what's happening with Attack on Titan. And if you thought you were clever and were going to make some joke that, we're going to get a season or final season part 4, you are not thinking nearly ridiculously enough, because of course not. Of course we are instead getting Attack on Titan, the final season, part 3, part 1.
I love it.
Jeez.
That's the best thing that has happened to anime naming conventions yet.
I mean, Nier does exist this season, and it always has dumb naming. So,
yeah, but Yoko Taro does not count as a human being, and we can't expect him to make any sort of rational decision in any creative endeavor. So
yeah, the first part of this final season, final part 3, whatever, is coming March 4th. It sounds like it's probably going to be like a TV special. We don't know how long. And then second part, they just said sometime in 2023, presumably another TV special, presumably the end. For all we know, Attack on Titan, the final season, part 3, part 2 will be a movie trilogy, and we'll get part 3, part 2, movie A, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. But that's Attack on Titan.
Literally taking the meme, every frame is a movie, and like doing it literally.
Yeah. Like no. I don't think it could possibly be more than like 2, I don't know, maybe hour and a half TV specials, because there's only like, I don't know, 8 or 9 chapters left to adapt.
And a lot of it's like 9 chapters, lots of action-oriented stuff, so I get why it's like they need to give the animators time, but it's still kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there was some message from MAPPA that was like, we wanted to release it all on March 4th, but we wanted to make sure that it was up to par and everything, which makes sense because MAPPA's currently juggling Attack on Titan and Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man and Vinland Saga and Hell's Paradise and a bunch of other things.
They need to calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take as much time as you need. Maybe don't take on every giant project in the industry at the same time, but take as much time as you need to make the ending of Attack on Titan as good as possible.
Yes, please.
So yeah, that's super silly, but we'll hopefully get the end of that before too long. And that's all the news I have. I guess unless anyone else has any news, we can move on to whatever we want to start talking about first. We don't have Kane to guide us. We do have some comments from him, so we'll touch on those when we get to his shows. But what do we want to talk about?
I think we should... I kind of want to rip off a little bit of a Band-Aid. I think we should talk about Trigun.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's very... yeah, I feel like it's just like a very hot button show right now, and for understandable reasons, because there's plenty of people in our age range, grew up in like the 90s and early 2000s that have a very, very like peculiar nostalgia for that original Trigun anime, and I feel like nothing that this new one can do will satiate people. So like I've just seen so much crazy banter on the internet that I don't even know how I feel about this show anymore. But
I think it'd probably be best to start with Kane's input on the subject.
Yeah.
So on the subject of Trigun Stampede, our illustrious, sick right now co-host Kane has the following to say. Meh.
Wow.
Yep.
Brilliant.
I agree. I don't think we can really top that.
What more needs to be said, really?
I have lots to say. Do you want to go first, or
you can talk? I wanna hear what your take is on it, because it seems you've already dropped it.
Yes, that's true. I have decent nostalgia for the old Adult Swim Saturday night days with Trigun, and actually, I guess I didn't watch it that much on TV. I mostly got like the Jenny on DVDs and watched on that.
Yeah.
But I was very aware of it. It was one of the three big space western anime that we got in '98, and then in the US a few years later. And I enjoyed it. It was an important touchstone in Western anime fandom at the time. It was never like a favorite of mine. And again, I didn't like really get into it right when it hit on Adult Swim or anything. But I always enjoyed it. And yeah, this new one, it makes a lot of changes, and changes aren't always a bad thing. I was talking about adaptation choices last episode and how much those can improve the source material. And I'm happy to embrace changes when I think that they are for the best. I think every one of these changes was for the worst. But even beyond that, I think there are very diverging opinions on whether this show looks good, which normally, you can get a pretty decent consensus of whether a show looks good or bad. Even with CG, you tend to have, generally negative opinions from most of the fandom. And the main exceptions I've seen to that for TV anime that are fully CG are from the Studio Orange, which this is. And, I liked Beastars. I thought it looked pretty good for being a full CG show. And when this was announced, I was concerned because I felt like even if you can make rock people and animal people look good in CG, doesn't necessarily translate to people. And I think I still don't think they really pulled it off. I think the Trigun is just like such, that 90s space western, like, it's silly, but it's still like gritty and like should feel a little dirty and like raw and lived in. And everything being CG doesn't quite work for that, I feel. And even though Orange is better at this than most other studios in the business, I still feel like there were some of those weird facial animations and some janky rigging here and there, and some of the compositing against the backdrops and stuff didn't always blend as well as you'd like it to. So I'm not sold on the look, and I don't care about like the redesigns. Like, it's 2020s, you can have E-Boy Vash now. It's not the 90s anymore. I'm fine with him looking different and cool and sexy and whatever. But yeah, I think the way that they were implemented in animation, I'm still not a fan of. In terms of the changes to like storyline and stuff, the loss of Millie really hurts. I think she was a really great character and a really great foil and complement to Meryl. I think they were kind of a perfect pair together. I think Meryl, without Millie, especially this interpretation of her where she's a little younger, very annoying. Doesn't really have anyone to rein her in. Roberto De Niro is a funny name to laugh at, but I feel like he has zero character so far. Well, I only watched the first 2 episodes, but all he did was be drunk and kind of just a downer. I don't think he has like any rapport with the rest of the cast at all.
I did not realize De Niro was his last name.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
stupid.
we have Meryl Streep and Roberto De Niro. Also, them being like journalists, like trying to interview Vash. I feel like doesn't present as much of a like interesting dynamic as being insurance agents who were like chasing after him for always causing so much destruction. Because they basically just like show up, and before too long they kind of just sit down and have a cup of tea and whatever, and they're just part of the group, and there's not a lot of the like crazy back and forth conflict and him causing huge problems for them. They're just like, yeah, we're here now. And yeah, I guess Wolfwood, I don't know if he's shown up yet since I dropped it. But it sounds like they're making similar changes to his character where like he's going to be younger, a little, he's going to be like not a priest anymore or something. Yeah, I don't know. So just all of those changes and the way that they structured it to be like, you know, the big reveal about Vash and his backstory and everything, dropping that as like the first scene of the entire series. I feel like takes away a lot of that late game mystery and like reveal potential. They just kind of sprinkle in right at the beginning, like, oh, here's the big plot twist. So yeah, I feel like all of those things are kind of to its detriment. And so between, yeah, not liking the changes, and of course there's a bias to knowing that they are changes. Maybe I'd be less annoyed if I was a new viewer, but I feel like the things I liked about Trigun, a decent amount of it is diminished by the directions they decided to go. That combined with not really digging the aesthetic, combined with never being like that huge of a Trigun fan, I just didn't find a lot of motivation to continue.
I think that's fair. There's like it's interesting because it is always going to be an uphill battle for CG anime, and I think you're right that like Orange is definitely one of the best in the business, and they proved that with Land of the Lustrous and Beastars. But yeah, I feel like there is some give and take on how it looks here. I do agree that like that grittiness isn't there. It feels a lot more sterile and like empty, which is interesting because when I think about like full CG shows, I feel like at this point I actually prefer the way Polygon Pictures does their like background compositing, because it feels like a lot more, or at least some of them, like at least the background art. I'm not going to say the animation or anything is any better. But I do think some of the animation cuts have been fun. Like the very Lupin-esque like chase scene in the second episode was, I think, very interesting. But I do agree that like some of the character changes aren't great. And I know this is supposed to be like a younger, not as cocky version of Vash, but like I don't know. There is something that everyone like you said, there was a place and a time for these like space western anime with like the main dude that was like this cool dude that can kick everyone's ass, and it is weird having like that character feel like a snubbed version of what everyone expects him to be. I don't know. It is funny you mentioned that we were literally talking about adaptations in the last episode or two, and how like you got to be okay with things changing. And I think even though this show is maybe changing some things for the worse, I'm going to try to stick it out, because I think it's fair to say that any like adaptation deserves at least to try something new, just because like, I mean, then the 90s show is always going to be there, and like this will never take away from that. And I don't think the answer to fixing this show would be retread the same grounds, because it's not going to hit the same, and that's obvious from like the art style and the direction and everything is just so vastly different. But yeah, I think there's a lot of fairness on both sides why the show's so like hotly contested right now. But I'm at least going to stick it out a little bit longer and see where it goes, because I don't mind the CG actually, so that isn't as big a detriment to me, even though it has nothing on the 90s look. But yeah, I'm gonna stick around. And I also like caught Trigun here and there when I was younger, but wasn't as big into it as I was like Cowboy Bebop and some of the other shows back then. So I am also not as like endeared like fully to the 90s adaptation. So like I'm gonna test the waters and see how it goes. But for now, it's all right. I've only watched the first 2 episodes as well. So
okay. Yeah, and what you were saying about doing something different, that was like exactly the reasoning that the team gave at like AX and stuff, because they were like, obviously I don't agree with these statements, but they were like, the manga is a perfect masterpiece, the anime is a perfect masterpiece, so why would we do the same thing? We want to do something as different as possible. So at the time we didn't know about all the drastic changes, but their main thing was, that's why we wanted to go with CG. And, you could continue that logic to be the reason that they made all of these changes to the story and characters as well. So yeah, I mean, good on them for trying something new. Like, I would love to see a 2023 Madhouse or Bones full Trigun adaptation. I think it would look amazing. But again, Trigun isn't my favorite thing in the world. So if we can get those resources on other things and they try something completely new with Trigun, that's fine.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like it's a good time for this to be coming out, just because there's like, I feel like it's been like a bit of a renaissance for 3D animation, and like not just like in Japan, but also like a lot of like American films are like taking on like new stylistic choices. They're not going like the full what's it called, Pixar. Everything doesn't look like Pixar anymore.
Right. DreamWorks diverged from that this year. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's like coming out at a good time. It's just, I don't know, people are still so adverse to these stylistic choices. So I don't know. I want people to give it a chance, but also that doesn't I guess excuse it from some of the liberties it's taking not hitting. And I understand the hashtag free Millie movement going on. But
yeah, no, it was definitely something that, like, even through the trailers and the reveals about, what and who would and wouldn't be in it and changes they were making, I was pretty skeptical from all of them. But I was like, I'm invested in Trigun. I got to give it a shot, see what they're doing with it, see what Orange does in their first like full human cast. And yeah, so I gave it a couple of episodes and it didn't hit. So no worries.
That's fair. Now I really want to hear what Kane would have to say besides meh. I get that was all he needed to say, but I guess we'll get more. We'll get more in like the mid-season from him.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
How do you feel about Trigun, DJ?
That's part of the subgenre of anime that I just don't care about.
Yeah.
All the like Western space stuff from the 90s. It's just, that's the hole in anime that I just carefully walk over every time. But I get it. And I get that it's a series that's close to a lot of people's hearts. It's just not my style.
Yeah, not your heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. What do we want to talk about next?
Let's see. I mean, we could keep up the same like gritty feeling and talk about something like Vinland Saga, or we could go for something totally different. Because I think we're all watching Buddy Daddies as well.
That's true.
We are.
Yeah, clearly you haven't seen Trigun, because it's a lot closer to Buddy Daddies than it is to Vinland Saga. A lot closer.
Like tonally?
Oh yeah. Way
really?
Closer.
Okay.
Way closer.
I did not expect that.
That's so funny.
See, as someone who has not experienced Trigun in any form, that is interesting to hear. But Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Let's talk about Buddy Daddies. That's a show that exists.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, I didn't research it. I'm 95% sure that this is just an original. It's not adapted. Is that correct?
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me like it a little less because it feels a lot more like a
It's definitely a trend
Spy
chaser.
Family capitalization.
Yeah.
But, and that's exactly how it feels in the show as well.
Mhm.
It's just a worse version of that. And I mean, it's still kind of fun, I guess. And I like anything PA Works does. So that not anything because glass.
Yeah, I was gonna say you heard it here, folks. Big glass lip fan.
I always forget that glass lip exists because
they did glass lip.
Glass lip exists.
Oh no.
Yeah. So barring glass lip, they're normally pretty consistent for me. But this is definitely one of their weaker properties thus far, and I'm only 2 episodes in, so it could obviously change. But right now, it just seems like a knockoff Spy Family with 2 dudes instead of dude and girl. And that's and a significantly less interesting Anya. So
yeah, I feel like Miri is like they play her more like a straight up child, but
Right.
and like that can be funny, but also like I don't know, Anya.
she's a child.
Yeah, well, Anya's whole viral potential is that like she's like a scheming little gremlin idiot.
She's a meme. She is just a walking meme, and that's why Spy Family's good.
Exactly. Like Miri is more like a real child, but it turns out real children suck, and it's a lot more fun to watch a character like Anya.
Yes. There's like a weird like tonal whiplash though with like Miri not caring that like there are guns firing off all around her at all times, and I guess she's cool with that. So I guess that's something a not real child would react like. But
would she grow up in America?
Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's an all right show so far. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say about it. It's like it is very just. It does feel like it's just kind of chasing the coattails of a genre, and I don't know. It's pretty funny.
It feels like they didn't know what to make a show about, so they made a show that already exists, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I do wonder exactly how the timeline went, because it takes a while to make a show, but it could have been just that they knew that the Spy Family manga was great and successful, and they knew that the anime would be a big hit, so they started working on it at least once they knew that an anime was coming, if not after it had already hit. I'm surprised Kane did not include anything to say about this, because a few days ago he said, "I want to say Buddy Daddies is one of my favorite anime titles of recent memory."
Yeah, I was also confused.
I didn't read that correctly. He meant literally the title. Okay.
Oh.
Maybe he hasn't actually watched any of it then.
Yeah, I remember talking about it when PA Works first announced that they were making an anime called Buddy Daddies, because they didn't provide any information at all about what it would be. They just we're making a thing called Buddy Daddies. And I was like, okay, let's see where that goes. And I mean, I probably could have predicted this if I put any amount of thought into it, but I didn't. So here we are.
Yeah, I might have guessed that they were like buddy cops, not like
yeah, not buddy assassins.
You're right. Yeah, maybe wouldn't have guessed that they were basically husbands.
Yeah, I guess I'm also kind of confused about their whole setup too, because they very clearly make it out. They're like, oh no, Kazuki is very hetero. He's banging chicks left and right. Like, don't worry, guys.
Don't worry.
We're not
no homo.
Yeah, literally.
No homo. He's just a slut.
Yeah, no, I think, it's like all the kind of queer baiting shows. I think you're supposed to think that, but I don't know, they don't want to get banned in China or something, so they have him banging a girl.
That's true.
It did feel weird to me, just from a narrative perspective, how first time he sees Miri, he's all like nice to her and shit, and is like, oh, cool kid, and then like that like changes when he finds out that it's actually his daughter, where it's just like she suddenly doesn't want anything to do with her anymore, which was weird to me. But
okay, so
well, it's not actually his daughter.
Yeah, I had to do a double take when he looked at those photos.
Right,
it was of the guy that they had killed in episode 1.
Right, he just looks like that guy.
It looked just like that guy.
That's why she thinks that it's actually her dad. Because like, especially since when he meets her mom, she has no fucking idea who he is.
I haven't watched episode 3 yet.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But you ruined everything.
But
okay, that does make a little more sense then. I guess I just didn't look at that picture close enough because I thought it just was him.
Yeah.
And it would fit the story since he bangs everybody. But
True. No, he just looks like the dude who he killed in episode 1, who was her actual dad. Yeah,
that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fun. I enjoy it. I haven't found any reason to not watch it yet. No strong feelings about it. It certainly does feel like if Spy Family didn't exist, this probably would also not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely just don't want to miss out on another PA Works one because I feel like that was one of my bigger regrets of the last season.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you and DJ swapped. He didn't watch Kome and you didn't watch Akiba.
Oh yeah.
Although, yeah, Kome is an adaptation at least, but still good PA work silliness.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're on, they're on.
Hmm?
They're not on this time. I said when PA Works is on, they're on. They're not on this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't have as much love for PA Works in general as you do. So this feels like the way I feel about most PA Work shows. I wasn't in love with Akiba Maid War. I don't think I like this one substantially less. I liked Kome.
This is like leagues under that for me.
Yeah,
it's because like the difference is Akiba Maid War is creative and unique, and it takes a thing and it like spins it into its own monster that just hasn't been done before in that way. And this is something that was literally done last season.
I agree. Akiba Maid War had a lot more originality and creativity to it. I think just the execution. Most of Akiba Maid War, I was like, yeah, all right, I get the joke. This one hasn't really bored me yet, so it kind of balances out.
Yeah, we're also only 3 episodes in.
Yes, certainly has potential to.
Yeah,
I think the 3rd episode, which you haven't seen yet, does a good job at like bringing in some sincere pathos and actually making you invested in the characters. It's like. It's the, to use a Vinland Saga term, the end of the prologue. So like that's when you really get your cast established and their relationships is at the end of episode 3. So, which is good in some ways, but also means that it could just be like totally episodic and inconsequential from here on out until they like have some climax for the last few episodes. But yeah, I thought it was a decent episode that tried something tonally a little bit different and kind of succeeded.
Mm.
All right. What do we want to talk about next?
Oh, we just mentioned Vinland Saga.
Sure.
We could talk about that.
All right. I'll quickly read off Kane's little bit about it. He said, I like the change of pace. Thorfinn certainly has a ton of PTSD to work through. Was surprised he took all those sword slashes without even a flinch. Wow, Kane's actually caught up on something. That was yesterday's episode.
Nice.
So yeah, Vinland Saga. Farmland Saga.
Good show. Yeah, I hear, I haven't read the source material in any way, but I hear that this entire arc is a like complete tonal shift for the series, and I guess I've felt part of that so far. I don't know how dramatic the tonal shift is, but it's definitely more relaxing than Vinland Saga has ever been. But at the same time, it's still a gruesome hellscape of a world in which there are just evil people everywhere, and so that much hasn't changed. I'm not really sure what people mean when they're like, "Oh, the tone is totally different." Like, is it just not action all the time, or like what? Please clarify how the tone is different.
I mean, yeah, I think we spent most of last season, from a very superficial perspective on fucking cool Viking action, killing people, and Thorfinn and his character and his perspective and his position in the series goes through extreme transformations across the course of the series. And he spent most of last season as, this teenager who was in the midst of this murder and only thought about revenge and would do all of these horrible things to, get to that end goal, and just had no value for anyone else's life. And now we see a very different side of his character in a very different environment. There's very little action going on, very little Viking stuff. It's, we've gone from the high seas to a farm, and farm work, and seeing how, slaves exist in this society. So I think that's very different. And I mean, the entire cast, like, we got a scene of Leif Erikson in the first episode, and we've gotten a very different Thorfinn. Other than that, the entire cast is completely different. All of the scenarios that they're in is just very different from what we've seen from Vinland Saga before.
Yeah, I feel like it's not so much a change in tone as it's a change of pace, but also a change in the scope of what the themes are getting at, because they're the same themes about like war and violence and like what it means to like be a man in like Viking society and stuff, but it's just taking it from what those ideals mean on the front lines versus what they mean on the farmland. And I have read this part of the manga, and this is my favorite part of the manga I've read so far, just because it's such a great character growth moment for Thorfinn compared to what he went through in the first half.
Yeah, like, right now he's still got more transformations to come, so don't worry. Because huge part of Vinland Saga is just the transformations that Thorfinn and Canute go through, and how that shapes the series and everything about it. And of course, they are shaped by their circumstances. But yeah, I think throughout the entire first season, other than like the first few prologue episodes, our protagonist is an awful person. That he's been through terrible trauma and that, he seeks this revenge, but nothing that he does is anything that you can get behind as a viewer, which is a bold choice to have for that long in the story. And now, before he can really like grow as a person, we see him just absolutely done with life and, just no motivation, no spirit left in him at all. His entire purpose for existing is gone. His entire worldview has been reshaped. He just has no idea, no motivation to go on or do anything. So he's just letting life drag him through, and going along with whatever it has in store for him. So yeah, it's very interesting to see just how this world exists through the many different scenarios and character arcs that we get from our protagonist.
I think I'm feeling a little confused about the series right now, just because Thorfinn in season 2 hasn't really been the protagonist so far. It's been the Einar show, and that's why I'm just like, I don't really like. I get what's going on, but I'm not like, I don't know. it's a little weird to me having the protagonist just be sort of a side character for a little while, and I know that that's going to change again because it is the Thorfinn show. But yeah, it's a slow start. And I don't know how long the slowness will go on for, and I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing either, because it's like I'm still enjoying the show. Like, it's still fun and brutal, but it's different. So I guess I can sort of understand the rationale behind all the people talking about how the tone is different now and all that jazz. But yeah, it does seem like more of a pace thing than a tone thing, because at the end of the day, it's still super dark, and we're just seeing a different side of things.
Right. Yeah, I think that's interesting. You bring up that Thorfinn doesn't feel like the main character right now, and I feel like for me at least, it feels like a deliberate move because, I mean, in the prologue, he is hell bent on revenge, and he is driving the plot forward to get his revenge. Whereas after the big fallout, and now where he is on the farmland, he is a slave, and he feels like he's submissive to the plot now instead of driving it. Yeah. And I feel like that's like a good way of framing it so far. And I think you don't have to worry too much, because I think introducing Einar is just important because he's going to be like a big factor in Thorfinn's growth in this arc. Yeah. So it's like they just needed to like upfront show you this guy so that you can understand who he is when him and Thorfinn start doing farm work together, I guess.
Yeah, like, the prologue, that was all Thorfinn lived for. So as far as he's concerned, Vinland Saga is over.
Yeah, right.
Ended at season 1, credits roll. And so, yeah, he's just living a completely passive existence now. So it takes, something, it takes what's the word I'm looking for? A catalyst to come into his life and, give him the inertia to reach that next character transformation and find reasons to continue living and actually existing and move forward as a person. And so, yeah, this is the Einar show to start out with, because we need a protagonist who is willing to be active and not be completely passive, because that is the push that Thorfinn needs to get back into his own story.
Yeah, like the second episode is a good example of that, because Kettle is like, okay, clear this forest, and once you do that in a few years, I'll let you be free men again. Einer's like, whoa, really? That's a sweet deal. Let's do it. And then they get to do it, and he's like, damn, this is taking a long time. And Thorfinn obviously isn't even thinking about becoming a free man. He's just like, I'm just going to mindlessly toil away and chop down trees because I don't know what else to do.
Exactly, because what would he do if he were free? He's lost his only purpose in life.
Yeah, it's sad. But
yeah, so he just needs, although he has the sweetest slave owner in the world, he needs a friend to be there and put him on the right path.
I feel like at least from when I was reading the manga, I don't remember Kettle being such a sympathetic character right from the jump. I feel like it came to that point eventually, but I feel like just right from the get-go in the anime, they're like, oh, look at this guy. He's like the opposite of any other slave owner. He's a good dude. He works with the slaves. He does all this shit. But I don't know. I could be misremembering, but
it has been a while since I've read the beginning of this arc. But yeah, I don't remember it being like so comically like good slave owner.
Yeah, if I was ever a slave, he's the one that I'd be gunning for.
Exactly.
DJ, I hear you have an unfavorable opinion about the music, or like the OP and ED, maybe.
Yeah, they're bad.
May I remind you that our last opening was Man with a Mission?
Fucking Torches is just so good.
Can't top Aime.
Yeah, but like I don't like. Okay, so Vinland Saga has always had fucking like English lyrics in its openings. But this is just like pure fucking English song, and I feel like it doesn't fit. And it doesn't sound good, and it doesn't get me excited to watch the show, and I'm just bored every time I hear it. And that annoys me. Like, I guess it fits the pace of the show a little better right now, but I am still getting acclimated to that. And I just think they're bad songs. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised how many people seem to really enjoy them, because I'm in a similar boat where like they're not. You're right that they don't, like, even if they might match the tone a little more of this season, they really don't inspire me to be like, yeah, let's watch some Vinland Saga. And I feel like the visuals also aren't anything crazy, so like it doesn't help, especially in the ED, like right before the chorus gets going, and he's like, Thorfinn's like shaking his head in his hands, and I'm like, that part just looks and sounds so bad all at the same time. And it's, I don't know, not my favorite. I think what they should do, instead of having English singers, they should get, I don't know, like some Icelandic singers, get Bjork up in that shit.
Totally.
That'd be so good.
Bjork to do the OP, bro.
That is the one good thing about the beginning of the Man with a Mission opening. At least it's got some of those, like, Scandinavian sounds.
Yeah. I like that they actually got like a Scandinavian person for the first episode to like read that stuff in the beginning. It was like,
right, yeah.
It was like some ASMR, the way he was enunciating that shit. I was like,
yeah, that was rad. I loved that.
Yeah.
That first episode was just solid.
Yeah. I think my only problem with the show right now is that it's a very one-to-one adaptation so far, and I want Mappa to take some liberties and like I'm not saying change anything, but I don't know, it just feels like I still prefer it in manga form, even though like this series I feel like benefits so much from like being able to see these beautiful farmlands in like full color and stuff, and being able to see some of the, of course, like the combat in full animation is going to look better too, but I don't know, so far I feel like I still prefer the manga up to the point of these first 3 episodes, and I just hope Mappa starts, kicking it into high gear a little more. But I understand we have talked unendingly about how they are very limited in how much they can put time and effort into one project.
Yeah, this feels very much like the Attack on Titan transition. Like, same thing with Studio to Mappa taking over at a huge turning point in the story. And I feel the same way about the visuals between them. I think with Studio really made those adaptations pop in a way that I'm just not feeling with Mappa's interpretations. I think they feel very flat, and it looks good. It's not like, Mappa's got another show this season that doesn't look good. This looks good. It looks fine. But it's not popping. And again, just like with Attack on Titan, like, it works right now because there's not much going on right now. It's pretty slow paced, not a lot of action. That's fine. Not a lot to prove yet. But it's, look at their stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man. Like, that is where they're putting their effort. It's very clear where they're putting their effort. And Attack on Titan's had a few, really stellar moments visually, but just compared to the consistency of incredible adaptation that Wit has given these shows and almost everything that they've worked on, I'm just not seeing it here. Just feels too dull.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to match up against Wit, but at the same time, it's like Mappa is the one deciding to take on these enormous series, so it's like they have to really nut up.
Like, Mappa has way more employees than Wit. They still contract all the best freelancers. They have every reason to be just as good. And again, when they really care about it, like, Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man, I think those look as good or better than pretty much anything you get from most other studios, including WIT. The difference is that WIT always focuses on a single project and makes sure that it looks as good as they can possibly make it look. And Mappa will grab a bunch of different stuff at the same time, and not everything can be a top priority. And that's a problem when, 2 or 3 of their 5 huge projects are like really beloved by people. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna watch it all the way through because this is like one of my favorite mangas of the last decade. So it's we'll see. Yeah, I think WIT will be fine. I think Mappa will be fine, but yeah, I do hope they surprise me at some point.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, of course, this is like top 5 manga of all time for me. And honestly, even though WIT had some beautiful animation, and they would bring in Arifumi Imai, who always makes their stuff look incredible, and just the overall like color design and compositing, just really slick. But I think I'll always prefer the manga. I think Yukimura's art style and panel layout and pacing is just like phenomenal, top notch. But yeah, I enjoyed WIT's season a lot. I'm not feeling quite as enthusiastic about Mappa's yet, but they definitely have time to step it up. And, if we get like, I don't know if it's announced, but if we get like 12 episodes of this, and then in my ideal world, like they have fewer huge fucking projects going on at the same time, put a little more into it. I've kind of been saying that with every season of the final season of Attack on Titan. So probably not going to happen because they just keep taking on more and bigger projects. But yeah, I think they absolutely have the potential to make it an incredible adaptation. But I'm not that impressed yet.
Yeah, it is a tall order to be better than Yukimura's art. Yeah, I think his like character expressions are so good, and there's just something about the transition to anime that makes some of these like, these are like supposed to be like thickly structured, like old white dudes, and they just end up looking blocky instead of like, I don't know, like the bone structure just doesn't sit right. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm holding out hope.
It's definitely not a bad adaptation by any means. It is, one of my favorite pieces of source material. Fine adaptation by all metrics. So certainly happy to have it, even if it's not like as ideal as I could imagine.
Yeah.
Also, I watched The Northman. It is very similar.
Dude, literally, the whole time I was watching The Northman, I'm like, this is just Vinland Saga.
Yeah.
This is just Vinland Saga.
Like, it has all the same arcs. Like, what the
literally, hell? Literally, he goes to the farm, and it's like, oh my God, it's still doing it. It's literally just like if you put Thorfinn on a scale. It's like, all right, Thorfinn is on this side of the scale for Vinland Saga, and Thorfinn, if he went double down on his revenge, he becomes the Northman.
Right. Which I guess, like, I was looking into it, I was like, why is the Northman so much like Vinland Saga? And I guess, like, that story that it's taking from Amleth, which is the main source behind Hamlet, I guess it must have just been, like, a huge inspiration for Vinland Saga, too, because if that's all from that ancient story, there's no way it's just a coincidence that another, Norse Viking story from 2005 or whatever is that similar. So I think, Yukimura took the historical context of, the Norse exploration of the Americas, or presumably we're eventually getting there. In all this time, we're still nowhere near the actual Vinland sagas. But, the backstories behind those characters and the historical figures of Thorfinn and Canute, and kind of mushed all of those together along with, the Amleth story and just some other ideas that he had to throw in there. So I think it must just be a combination of those things, because I don't think, like, there's really any historical backing to Thorfinn's whole backstory.
No. No, yeah, it's like a lot of the characters around him are, but yeah, he's like an insert.
Well, I mean, he is a real character. Like, he was on Leif Erikson's Finland sagas. But I think everything about his backstory is completely made up.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They do. It's like that in a lot of fucking like Dynasty Warriors shit too. They just blow up these actual historical figures into crazy fucking
right.
Let's make Lu Bu a demigod.
Yeah, shit like that. They're doing it again. Wo Wong, the only game I'm excited for this year. But this is an anime podcast, so we won't talk about that.
Damn.
All right. So, are we done with Vinland Saga? Is it time to move on to something else?
Sure. I think we're good. Yeah.
Do we want to go for completely different in contrast again, or something that still fits the tone? Because we've got a lot of romance this season, which is something Vinland Saga does not have much of.
No. Yeah, I think we should pivot.
Okay. Let's pivot to Kubo then, because that's a series I own and haven't read. Like I've just been consistently buying that as it comes out, like ever since it released, and just never touched it. But that's fun, and I think it's fun that we got it this season, because we also get the second season of Nagatoro this season. And Kubo is like the anti-Nagatoro in every way. And I think that it's really fun having both of these shows happening at the same time, because you've got one where the girl is just super nice and one where the girl is super mean. But Kubo has been fun so far, and it's cute. And I mean, it hasn't really done anything other than be cute, but it's cute, and that's what I care about.
I think it's funny you mentioned that, because I just had an image of like loser protagonist, and then on one shoulder is Angel Kubo, and then Devil Nagatoro on the other shoulder.
Yeah, they are completely different from one another, but they're still very similar shows tonally. So
I think Takagi is the Takagi is the middle ground between them.
Yeah,
is the
she has moments where she's a little too teasy, and Kubo doesn't really have anything like that, I guess. She's just pure joy.
Yeah. Takagi is just sweet teasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's on hiatus like everything else this season now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's just announced
that
today.
One did. Yeah. Oh, wow. Damn. Well, I was already like on the edge about it, so I guess it's going in the bin. I feel like for me, this one, I mainly picked it up because I heard so much about the manga. It was one of those similar to Tomo-chan, where I saw like the manga discussion threads were always like at the top of like Reddit and wherever. So I just kind of by word of mouth was like, okay, maybe I'll give this one a shot. And I feel like for me, it's similar to how when Komi got adapted, for me, the art style didn't transition right. Like, I feel like there's like a weird uncanny valley where a character like Kubo and a character like Komi like look the way they do in the manga and are popular because of the way the artist draws them, but I don't know, their anime counterparts are like just like a weird uncanny valley of like, I don't know, they just don't sit right with me.
Yeah, Komi does not animate well unless she's in fucking chibi mode, where she is adorable, but like as a normal human being, she just looks weird.
Right. Especially since she's supposed to be like gorgeous.
Yeah, I don't get that from Kubo. The problem that I have with the art in the Kubo anime is that I feel like the characters are way too pale, where like they're so white that it's blinding at points, and that kind of annoys me. But I think otherwise she looks fine in anime form.
I think I get what you mean now. I hadn't thought of it before, but thinking about how her face is drawn, and the similar issues I had with Komi, I can see it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny you mentioned the chibi form thing because like I like all of Kubo's chibi silly reactions in the show, but like when she's trying to like look cute, I'm like, I don't know, there's something weird.
Yeah,
I don't get that from Kubo yet. I did with Komi though.
Yeah, like with Komi, definitely when she's supposed to be gorgeous and they're showing those shots of her, and it's like, oh, you got a weird fucking angle face and weird proportions. And yeah, I feel I can kind of see the same thing with Kubo when she has like her super cute blushing moments where she like puts her head in her hands or whatever, and it's like, yeah, your head is kind of weirdly shaped, isn't it?
I will say I do like the Shiraishi's like his whole deal as being invisible because normally when I went into this I thought like, oh, like he's being bullied or people are like ignoring him. It's like, no, this kid literally has an almost like supernatural power to like not be seen by people. And I think how over the top
though, or his thing was just like fucking he's completely unremarkable in every way.
That's true, but like I like that they literally refer to him as like a cryptid in this.
Yeah,
bad.
It's a lot more exaggerated in this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very absurd. I think it's very silly, but as long as you buy into the joke, they come up with some pretty funny ways of making that, how that would play out in real life.
Yeah, like the very first yearbook gag, like I actually laughed out loud when I saw that. I was like, okay, that's good. That's a good start.
Good. Yeah.
I feel like for me, this is a show that like I enjoy on a surface level, but I don't know if I can sit through a full season of it.
Mm-hmm.
It like might get stale on me, but I don't know. Maybe I wish it was like a short or like a half episode length or something, but we'll see. I'll give it I guess I would have given it a few more episodes, but I guess I'll wait now.
This is like the exact type of shit that I eat up, and probably why I'm enjoying this season so much as a whole, because it's just a whole bunch of fucking romance series like this, and I'm all about it. But Nagatoro is so good. And it is skyrocketed back up to the top of my list because it's just I don't know if you watched it at all, Bran. I know Kestrel, you dropped it, but it's changed a lot since it first started airing, and it's not just pure malice all the time anymore. And as you learn more about Nagatoro as a character, she starts to become really likable, and it's at the point where she's straight up obsessed with the main character, and it's really adorable because she's still a bitch and everything, but she's super protective at the same time, where it's like if literally anyone else tries to mess with this guy at all, she goes into like fucking mama bear mode. Yeah. And it's really cute having that dynamic where it's like even the main character himself has sort of accepted who she is and understands that that's just how she kind of expresses herself, because she doesn't really know how to do it properly. And that doesn't excuse the things that she says, but it does help to humanize her a lot and turn her into more than just a mega bitch. It's the same with her friends as well, because she's got her entire friend group, and they have sort of just all taken fucking senpai under their wing, and it's cute watching how far they've come from where they were. And it's really consistent with the first season as well in terms of overall quality. So my love for Nagatoro and company has been reignited, and I'm glad that we're getting more. And I'm glad that it's still popular too.
Nice. I was definitely like off-put at when Nagatoro was first airing, just because everyone was like, wow, this chick is such a like a bitch, and like this main character, he's such a bitch too. But I'm glad to hear that like the formula has room for it to like actually grow the characters. And
it was always gonna be like that. Like the series couldn't have existed if that was all it was going to be. Yeah. So I was holding out hope. And as time has gone by, I've started to understand, I guess, more why people had a problem with it. Mm-hmm. But that's not what it is anymore. And I think that for anyone willing to sort of spend more time with Nagatoro to try and understand her, that there's a lot to be gotten out of this series.
Yeah. This is another one that's like a little bit out of my ballpark, but I'm trying a little because like I'm trying with Kubo, and I was very on the fence with Tomo-chan, and I still don't know if I'm gonna pick that up. But
yeah, let's move on to that, because I'm seeing this at the top of a lot of people's lists for the season, and I don't really get that at all. Like, it's fine. It's a good show about a tomboy girl, and tomboys are popular, but it's nothing really unique in any way. I don't feel like this has been a story that's happened a million times before. And I mean, the big takeaway from Tomo-chan so far, at least for me, has just been that Takahashi is a fucking good actor, which is the thing I already know. So
I think, like, without the production values and the voice cast, doesn't have a lot going for it.
Yeah, I think you're probably seeing it at the top of people's lists because it's such a like beloved manga. It's probably a lot of people who read it and are like just hyped that it's being animated finally. Because that is one of those that I saw like for years. People were like, "This is the manga you should be reading right now," and I'm like, "Okay."
So strange. Like, why this one?
That's how I feel like so many of these series: Tomo-chan, Kubo-san, fucking Komi-san, all girls with honorifics. Like, all of them, I just hear so much hype about them from the manga for years. They last for hundreds of chapters. Like the most hyped shit when the anime comes out, and the anime comes out, I'm like, what? This? This
is what you guys are freaking out about?
Yeah.
I think so far my favorite part of Tomo-chan has just been how much Misuzu reminds me of Hanajima from Fruits Basket. That's been my favorite part. Just having her back.
I agree. That and Sally Amaki voicing her character in both the Japanese and English versions are the things that I like about this show.
I have to hear the English version still, but she's an actress who I just get excited every time that she shows up because she has such a fun voice, and she's just a pure goofball in every form.
Yeah, it's great. This hasn't been put on hiatus, right? This is the only Aniplex show that hasn't. The other three all have, I think.
Damn.
Yeah, I didn't even know Kubo-san was put on fucking hiatus until you said it.
So. Yeah, I didn't until like an hour ago. I just saw it.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I'm finding out all of the hiatuses as we go. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think it is well produced and well acted, and that's about it. I think the plot is very basic and one of those things where, like, how far can they go with it? You know, that's the question we ask with a lot of these. Like, okay, we get the premise, we get the joke. Do you have anything else to offer? We're just going to be treading this water the whole time. So we'll see.
Yeah. And on top of that, there are fucking 2 more series just like it that I'm also watching that are just romance focused. So there's the fucking Angel Next Door, which is good, but nothing has really happened yet. So I guess there's going to be, I feel like this will be easier to talk about later on because we've already, I feel like everything that we've just mentioned also just pertains to this show as well. But then there's a more unique one that kind of threw me off, and that was the ice guy and his cool female colleague.
I just like which that is title, the ice guy.
Yeah, because what do you think of when you hear that title? Because when I think of Ice Queen, I think of, like, you know, cold, dismissive girl and shit like that. Which is why I went into this show expecting, you know, a cold, dismissive guy. No, he is literally part Yuki Onna, and he generates snow, and he creates ice and shit. And that was a thing that completely threw me off when I started watching this. Because the first time he shows up, he's got like the snow falling down around him. And I'm like, oh, cool, metaphor. And then cool female colleague girl is like, you are frozen. And so it becomes apparent from that point on that we are in a world where I guess Japanese people have just been crossbreeding with spirits. And so you've got part Yukiona dude, there's a fox girl in the office, and those things are just completely treated normally and perfectly fine within this universe. But it's also wotakoi at the same time. And so just combining those two things makes for a really fun and cute, heartwarming experience that is completely different from how I imagined it would be, but at the same time, very enjoyable and different.
I do enjoy me some wotakoi.
So. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think if you give it that description, you might have Kane on board. He fucking loves that show.
Yeah, it's very, very wotakoi. Like they work in like company corp, and no one knows what they do. They're just at a job, and it's all office romance stuff. But there's also that like mini supernatural element to it that isn't really a focus, but part of the story. Overall, it's just pure workplace cute romance, though. And protagonist girl is totally aloof and a lot different from what's her name in wotakoi. But I like the girl and ice guy more. I think that they're a better couple and a more interesting couple overall. But one of the cool things that wotakoi had going for it was the side couples as well. I was
going to say, yeah,
which were even
the best
better.
Couple in wotakoi was the side couple, yeah.
Yeah, and this show doesn't have that yet, but I mean, the opening theme alludes to it, so I'm sure that we'll get that later on down the line.
We must have talked about this when the Annoying Senpai show came out. Like, that's the same thing, right? That's a work couple where the best couple is the side work couple.
Yeah,
that happens a lot.
Apparently, yeah.
Because you're not allowed to make the main romance happen, otherwise the story ends.
Yeah, but I mean, the two romances in the My Senpai's Annoying were like kind of on the same track, like
yeah.
And wotakoi, they were both like legitimate romances and relationships.
Yeah,
but in both cases, the side characters were way better.
One of my favorite rom-coms is My Love Story, and they literally start dating after episode 1. So like, yeah. I don't know, I'd like more of that. I don't need no Nozaki-kun bullshit going on.
I like Nozaki-kun a lot, but like compared to what you can do with the same kind of premise and gags and stuff, like just seeing what Kaguya-sama was able to pull off. Like I don't want to.
The standard is lifted now.
I don't want to talk about Kane when he's not here, but his problems with Kaguya-sama are like the misunderstanding and the relationship never goes anywhere gags. And that's like 100% of Nozaki-kun, which he loves. And like pretty quickly subverted and eschewed by Kaguya-sama. So I don't get that. But yeah, I agree. More romances that actually progress. Always good.
That visual novel skit from Nozaki-kun is like god tier, though. That's like probably the best thing I've ever seen.
Show that I don't know why I didn't watch.
Yeah, that skit is great. And the manga, goes way past the anime, and I enjoy that a lot. It's probably my favorite 4-koma series.
I should probably
I didn't read it because I'm not really a fan of the 4-koma format.
Yeah, I'm usually not a huge fan, but that one and Azumanga Daioh work for me pretty well.
Well, maybe this could be crazy. Maybe DJ would like Pop Team Epic as a 4-koma. I don't know.
What?
I don't know.
What?
Just saying.
No. I feel like it would have less potential to annoy me as a 4-koma.
Yeah, what's the justification behind combining a thing he hates with a format he hates being something he would like?
I don't know. Maybe it's just some weird lightning in a bottle scenario that it would just click, but no.
The bottle exploded.
So I want to know, as someone who hasn't played Nier yet, should I not watch the show?
Okay, so as of right now, which again, very early on in a very long story.
Yeah.
But the the important thing to know about Nier Automata is that it uses its medium in a way that not really any game I've played before does, where it takes advantage of it to a point where it's almost like fourth wall breaking. Mm-hmm. And you completely miss out on that in the anime, and they do stuff to try and, I guess, counteract that in like vignettes at the end of episodes and stuff. But Nier as a whole, I feel, is meant to be consumed as a video game. Mm-hmm. That said, so far the adaptation has been pretty loyal, and they've gone off script a couple times and added things that weren't in the game that I feel like have made the show good, but you are missing a very important piece by not having played the game. And I feel like this show would be best experienced by people who have. Yeah. It's just a completely different monster, and I'm surprised that this got an adaptation at all, given just how video game focused it is. But I'm enjoying it so far. I think it looks good most of the time. Some of the CG elements are a little odd, but I think it's a lot better than I expected it to be, and I am really glad that I guess more people are going to be able to experience it now. So for people who haven't played the game, they might want to play the game now, and that's really always the goal when it comes to anime like this. So yeah. I am happy that we have it, and I'm happy to keep watching it. But is this on hiatus now too?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. So that's I guess I'll sideline that for now. Overall, though, I'm enjoying it. I think Kane had some thoughts on this one too. I don't have those on hand if you want to read them.
He says, really like it, though the episodic structure and smaller amount of time to tell the story kind of dulls the impact of the scenes humanizing the machines. Not quite the same impact.
Yeah, it's done in a very different way in the game. Episode 2 of the Nier anime, you get that entire like short film basically about the one robot who grows the flowers and shit. Yeah. And that's a thing that you didn't get in the game. Instead, in the game, you get a lot of smaller in-world experiences with robots like that aren't just throwing their story in your face. So it's done a lot more subtly, but there is a much higher abundance of it in the game, where that's like the whole point of the world, to humanize these creatures that you then turn around and slaughter. So that's a really cool thing that Nier plays with. And it's going to be hard doing that same thing in the anime, but I feel like just the flower robot thing alone was serviceable. There's going to be more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured what you said was probably going to be the case, because I, of course, had heard such amazing things about the game. And, seeing this adaptation so far, I figured we're probably not far enough for it to, wow anyone anyway, but B, that it's probably that it used the medium of video games so specifically, and that's what made it so great. Like, I think this came out the same year. Like, I don't think a Breath of the Wild anime would be anything worth watching, because it's about playing that game, that experience. You would not get that. It's not about, I guess the only thing that I thought, maybe it could be just as good as an anime is because such a huge part of what people pointed out about what was so great about it was like Yoko Taro's writing. So I was like, okay, well, if the writing is such a huge part of what makes it so great, then maybe a film or animation adaptation could be fine. So yeah, I was kind of wondering the same.
Yeah, I think the thing that a lot of people aren't really saying, I guess, when it comes to Yoko Taro's writing is that the way he writes and the reason that he's such a good writer is because he is really circumventing a lot of norms when it comes to writing and telling stories in unconventional ways. And when you have an anime, it becomes harder to do that. Mm-hmm. you're now face to face with just the story and the story alone, and there's no added element of, I guess, exploration or digging for that story. It's just on a platter.
Yeah.
And I like the themes that the series is going to show you are not going to change or anything like that. It's just the way you are consuming it, I feel, sort of dilutes it a little. And his writing alone is good, but his writing in the way that he wants you to consume it is phenomenal. Yeah. So again,
that makes sense.
You're gonna miss out on some of it, but
yeah, it definitely makes sense. Like writing an interactive narrative is very different from writing a linear narrative.
Exactly.
So it totally makes sense. I figured that was probably the case. Yeah, I was wondering, like, at this point, should I be impressed by anything as someone who has no knowledge going in? Like,
no, nothing impressive has been done yet. We've just gotten a faithful adaptation of the opening sequence of the game, basically. And the opening sequence of the game is a very, very small part of the game. Like, the game doesn't finish the game doesn't really start until you finish the game once. And then you play it again, and it's like a completely different thing. But right now there's nothing narratively that should wow anybody. It's just people who know where it's going and know where it came from, I feel like, can appreciate it more for its loyalty to the source in the best way I guess it possibly could have been done.
Yeah, so then my next question becomes, seeing how it's being adapted so far, knowing the strengths of the original with its medium, do you think that someone who has no knowledge of the games will be wowed by it as an anime alone?
Wowed? Like, am not sure.
Impacted in any fraction of the way that the players of the game were.
Yeah, I feel like it can be done, and that it probably will be done. But my problem is that I don't know how long it will theoretically take for that to happen. Right. And that it is equally possible that it could just fall flat if not done correctly. But it's definitely possible, I think, at this point, for people to come away impacted by the Nier anime, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, it does seem like it has a very long story to tell, and it is unlikely that we will get anime to tell that entire story.
That's what I'm worried about, yeah.
Yeah, I knew before I asked that, like, the game would be the optimal first thing to experience, but it's good to know that they're at least attempting,
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's better than I thought it was going to be. And that's really all I can ask for, because it's never going to live up to its source material. But what we are going to get, and what I hope will help wow a lot of the new audience, is that the soundtrack for Nier is one of the best in gaming, and we've only got a very small fraction of that. And I'm just waiting until we get to the fucking, I don't know if, we're going to get to a place where they're going to play a song and it's going to be a good song. And I won't say what kind of place it is, but some good music's coming.
This is one of those properties where, like, I might not have played the game yet, but I've listened to that soundtrack a lot.
So good. It's one of my favorite game soundtracks ever.
If you haven't, you should watch the Archipel YouTube channel. They did like a little mini... They do like little mini docs on Japanese creators, and they did one on the guy who made the soundtrack. So
that sounds good.
Watch.
Do you think this would have been better as like an original story in that universe, where they could like really structure it better for a linear narrative and provide like something new for fans of the game and something that wouldn't require any previous knowledge for new fans?
Feel like that would have potential to be really good, but Yoko Taro is very inconsistent, I feel, and not everything that he writes is a slam dunk. And so I feel like it would also be possible for something like that to be utterly horrible. And at least knowing the story that is being told, I have a lot more hope in it, because I have to approach everything that he does with an air of skepticism now, because he keeps trying to, I guess, write things that aren't really in his normal wheelhouse, and none of them are ending well. So,
gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a universe where standalone stories like that could be good, and there are some of them already being told inside of the game. So like there's definitely shit that you could do. It's just I don't know if that would be the best idea as a standalone series without this.
Okay. Yeah, this is definitely a series where like if it never comes back from hiatus, I'll probably be okay.
Yeah. I feel like it's unfortunate that most of the discussion I've seen so far online were just people ragging on the robot CGI.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally all I saw online for the first episode. They're like, they ruined it.
I wouldn't say they ruined anything yet. People are just going to cry about anything.
Yeah, I think it looks
for
fine.
sure.
Okay. What are we talking about next?
You know, and speaking of weird CG, and I don't know if Kane gave his thoughts on this, but I can maybe touch on Kaina of the Snow Sea a little bit. Oh, Kane does have stuff, so I'll just read his because I actually have it this time. So in regards to Kaina, Kane says, really original atmosphere and setting. CGI is still not good, but I am hoping the story will carry past that. I particularly like the billboard readers and how they carry the history of humanity. Yeah, I'm going to echo all of that. Kaina doesn't look good, but it has one of the coolest world designs and just really interesting world building. And I feel like this will either wind up being fucking awesome or just straight up boring, because they've got this great canvas and this really cool story that is completely unlike anything I've experienced in a while. And I really hope that it doesn't get bogged down by how ugly it is. It's such a cool world. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the visuals or anything, but
well, this is what I was kind of talking about with like polygon pictures can do backgrounds and stuff, but the characters, they never look good.
No,
they
don't. And and it's not just the characters either. It's a lot of the effects. Like there's a part in the first episode where there's like a group of people on snowmobiles just driving through this like sea of snow. And the snow they just look like, it looks like giant snowballs just like floating up from the ground. And it's really ugly, but it's a really cool setup because you've got these people who live like all the way up in the sky on this weird tree that like turns into like this weird membrane ice layer thing, and there's only a few people left in that village, and there's like a whole bunch of people miles and miles and miles below them living on the sea, and it's those worlds sort of clashing and people from both sides coming together, and it's clear that there's a lot of layers to the world and the lore of the universe and everything, and that there's just all these different types of groups of well-formed people within that setting. I just don't know if they're going to be able to effectively explore them while maintaining the audience's interest, if the visuals are going to detract from the experience. It's got a lot of potential, and I am excited to see where it goes from there, but I'm also kind of worried because it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're even watching it, because usually that's like a total deal breaker for you.
It is, and that I feel like speaks to how cool the world is, because I also love interesting, unique universes, and this is one of them. It's dark in ways like, I guess you could compare it to Promised Neverland, or what I imagine is Made in Abyss, now that I've finally started watching that. It's just a world that is a lot bigger than its human inhabitants. And I like when things like that are explored. And this could go either way, I guess. And it's strange because this isn't the only show this season that's doing that. Segue time. We've got the Fire Hunter as well, which is, I feel, another show that gives me really intense Shinsekai Yori vibes, where it's just, you've got this really dark and folklore-y background, and it's super cool so far. But again, I'm worried that this might do what Shinsekai Yori did to me initially, where it will become too heavy on world building and sort of take me away and make me bored. But I have learned my lesson from going back and rewatching Shinsekai Yori and giving it a second chance that wound up being one of the fucking coolest worlds ever. And we've got the foundation for that in the Fire Hunter, and we've got really deep background stories and all that jazz. But will it be able to capitalize?
Yeah, this one also scares me because it is like enticing on a lot of levels, because it's got Mamoru Oshii writing the script, and it's like him and a bunch of like veteran industry dudes that are like, it's obviously a passion project for all these old veteran animators that want to make, like, they want to adapt. I think it's like, I don't remember if it's a novel or if it's a manga, but it's like they're obviously coming together to like make this happen. And you can see why, because yes, it is such an interesting world, and I think they've done a good job so far of balancing like lore dumping and also just like showing us why the world is interesting. But it is feel like it's built on a very rickety bridge, because I just watched the second episode a few hours ago, and it feels like they're already hitting weird budgetary snags, or I don't know if it's that or if it's just weird stylistic choices, like by putting the just like the drawn, it almost looks like a
I know what you're talking about, where it becomes like fucking like storybook art for
it
like
almost looks like a storyboard. And
it's very folky.
It's very like it's like a Whiplash too, and it kind of reminds me of like 60s anime and like 70s stuff. It reminds me of like Galaxy Express 999 type of stuff. Like it's feels like a very retro technique that looks weird in like the current anime landscape, but I also don't want to poo-poo it too much for like taking interesting directorial choices, but I do worry that the production won't be able to like keep up, just because the second episode already like felt a little weird in that regard.
It definitely did. I feel like the first episode was definitely better overall, just in terms of production quality. But I am leaning toward that being a stylistic choice. I don't know if that's because I want this series to succeed. It's really different, and it definitely looks old, but I feel like it looks old in a way that someone like myself, who is a big stickler for new looking art, can still appreciate, because of how detailed and beautifully constructed the world is. And I think you look, or needn't look any further than the opening to really see what this world can have in store for us visually. You've got a lot of really diverse and interesting visuals, different landscapes in just the opening sequence, and we've only seen one small fraction of that in the show itself so far. So there's still a lot left to explore, and I'm not sure if the directorial choices of like all the, here's a folk art panel of just a girl washing a toilet or some shit like that, are the best course of action for the series, but they haven't really detracted so far. And it does some other interesting stuff with visuals as well. Like there'll be characters having a conversation, and you'll get like almost manga style fucking split screens of the character's face, like with if you're like looking at the back of their head or some shit like that. And it's they do a lot of small things like that I feel like help show things that you wouldn't normally see, and that's cool. But yeah, it's definitely playing around a lot with visuals, and not all of them have gelled, but I feel like they have the potential to gel. And again, I'm really rooting for this to succeed because it's the first thing in a long time that has felt like Shinsekai Yori to me, and that was just such an interesting and unique anime.
Yeah, I agree. It not only has a similar like strange world building to Shinsekai Yori, but like the art itself with like the very thin line work and like drab color palette really remind me of it too.
It just it feels like another Shinsekai Yori.
Yeah, and I just hope, just based off of the first 2 episodes I've seen, the only thing I really worry about besides the production is the pacing of the story. Like, I don't know how long it's going to be, like her trek to the capital and stuff like that. There's still so much potential for where the story can go that like I almost can't worry about it because I don't know what to expect still. But this is definitely the biggest. It can go either way of the season. Like, it could be like one of the most memorable shows of the season, or it'll just fall apart.
Yeah, I feel like, and I don't know anything about the source material, but based on how slow the intro has been so far, I don't know if it's presumptuous to say that this probably needs 2 cores. But that's what I would want out of a show that looks and feels like this. I don't know if it will be memorable with just a trip to the capital. I feel like there has to be a lot for this world to really work out to the extent that it needs to work out to succeed. If it has ample time, though, I imagine that this will be good.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay. What else is on our radars?
We got another season of Tokyo Revengers happening right now.
We do.
On Hulu. Which is, I'm glad that we're getting it because I was worried that we weren't going to.
Not in a year.
Yeah. And it's been solid so far. It's more Tokyo Revengers.
Yeah.
The biggest middle schoolers of all time.
I don't know. I think they need to face off against the cast of Prince of Tennis.
I haven't watched that, but
they are like, also all in their 30s.
I feel like Tokyo Revengers might win in that sort of face-off.
Tokyo Revengers versus Stardust Crusaders in a fist fight.
Yeah, also true. Yeah. Both this and Prince of Tennis, they're like 12-year-olds who are clearly in their 30s.
Wild.
And, yeah. And especially in this, because they're like, they fucking rule the streets of the entire Kanto region. And they're like 12. Shut
up. The Murder Squad.
Yeah, shut up.
What a great name.
Murder Squad.
Yeah, that's the name of the fucking rival gang. Well, it's Black Dragon, but Murder Squad is a sect of Black Dragon, of their most seasoned fighters, and they're going to be the antagonists of this arc, I guess.
I mean, that's like the name of a 15-year-old's gang, probably.
Yeah,
just not the fact that one of those 15-year-olds is 7 feet tall and 500 pounds of pure muscle and can crush a man's skull in his hand.
Fucking coming out with more menacing people in this show, and it's wild. I just banged my mic.
One-upping.
Yeah. I like Hakai and Yuzuha a lot as new characters in the series. I fucking love Yuzuha. But Takemichi still continues to annoy the shit out of me. I just don't like him as a character. He is like, I get that he's going through some shit and that he is the only person in the world who has the ability to time travel, which I guess would put a lot of mental strain on a person. But, you know, when all he does is fucking cry and get the shit kicked out of him, it's hard to like him.
I mean, yeah, he's not like the most exciting protagonist to, like, you know, put on your fucking wall or whatever. But he's the fucking loser, and he's a weak piece of shit.
Anything that makes me like him at any point.
And he has no skills, but he's like, shit, I'm the only one who can fix this situation. So even though I know I'm going to get the fucking shit beat out of me constantly and probably die, I'm going to put myself in all of these situations where I know it's going to happen. And I'm just going to take it because that's what it's going to take to save the people I love.
He has that's a supernatural ability to stay alive.
Like, well, I mean, it's called protagonist plot armor.
Yeah. Literally like a plot exoskeleton.
Even if he was literally immortal, just knowing how much he's going to get the shit beat out of him constantly and going into all those situations anyway. That's
what else is he gonna do? He's not gonna just fucking oh, my girlfriend's gonna die. I guess I'll just go lay in my room and wait for that to happen.
I mean, she's gonna die in like 12 years. They weren't really that close in the first place. Like, he could just go off and live his life. But I mean, I think a lot of people in that situation, if you're that weak and that incompetent, and you know, he's not like conditioned to pain yet. No matter how much he gets, it still fucking hurts every time. I think a lot of people in that situation could find convenient excuses to get themselves out of those situations.
We've had other protagonists in similar situations before. Like, fucking imagine Okabe in this situation where he just needs to get the shit constantly kicked out of him. I feel like that would be a lot more interesting to watch than Takemichi or fucking I think Satoru was his name from Erased. He was another time jumping dude who was like, he had input that was interesting to hear. And I feel like all Takemichi does is complain and be like, I can't do it. And that's just all he ever thinks. And I get that it is, I guess, realistic to feel helpless when you are surrounded by people 10 times your size who want to kill you. But I just feel like he hasn't really grown much, and he's still just saying the same things that he's been saying since the start, where it's just like, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. No one else can do it. Ow. And then that's just Takemichi.
I agree. He hasn't really grown, and it has been like just kind of going through the same motions over and over again. So that is unfortunate. I think in the context of this world where the underground is ruled by 12-year-olds and this guy can travel back and forth in time by shaking his girlfriend's brother's hand, he's probably the most realistic aspect. Yeah. I think in the midst of all that absurd window dressing and premise, his character, how he reacts in those situations, is probably the most realistic thing, because all those other characters are much better, more likable, more interesting characters. But if you're in the situations he was in, I think most people, certainly I would react the same way he does. But it doesn't make for the most compelling narrative when that's your main character and you just get the same thing over and over.
Overall, though, the series continues to be entertaining as hell, which is just the one word I've always fallen back on when it comes to Tokyo Revengers. Where there are a lot of problems I have with it, but holy shit, am I just always having fun when I'm watching this show.
Yeah, it definitely hit a peak for me at some point in the first season, where I was like, I love this series. And now it's kind of settled down to just be like, all right, I'll got to stick with Tokyo Revengers, see how things go.
Not to be a downer, but people made a big fuss about the manga ending.
That's right.
I saw people were like, this is worse than how they ended Attack on Titan. and that got lots of heat. So I don't know. And that's just my 2 cents, is that people hated the ending of Tokyo Revengers.
Anime fans complaining? They must be right.
I know, right? No one's ever complained about an ending.
Has there ever been a good ending? Anime fans?
No.
I could have wrote a better ending.
Fucking do it.
Attack on Titan Requiem literally existing.
Oh, God.
Now we can, I'm sure it'll be fine until we get Tokyo Revengers, the final season, part 3, part 4, part 2. So
that's gonna be the best one. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. It's fine for now. Maybe they don't stick the landing. I won't be too heartbroken because I don't adore it like I do Attack on Titan. But it'll suck.
Yeah.
I invested a lot of time. It doesn't land.
Yeah, no, it's just entertaining. Like it's a show that I am not going to drop because it's just I want to see where it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Also Hulu's subtitles are weird.
Yeah. But hey, better than nothing.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I don't know if
just
I've
kind of
ever
ignore
watched.
that.
I don't know if I've ever watched an anime on Hulu.
It's not like all of them are like this, but I think the ones that they're like getting through the Disney licenses, they got like the sound effects and stuff subtitled. It's like, subtitled for the deaf and hard of hearing.
Yeah.
Even though they're just, translations. Yeah, and like, they put the character's name before all the lines, and they have like, music starts playing, like shit like that. Akamichi cries.
I was going to say, there's probably a lot of that one then. Oh, no.
Every other line.
Just copy and paste that over and over.
We should just keep it on screen for the whole show.
Just at the top of the screen the entire time. This is probably happening.
Yeah, just like a scroll happening at all times.
All right. What else do we got?
I feel like I think it's funny that we're all watching My Hero, but we consistently never talk about it. But
yeah, you know what? Let's talk about it. I don't have a lot to say, but what I do have to say is that the new opening is the best opening the show has had.
I don't
know if that's a hot take or not.
I don't think it is. I think it looks really good. I think I'm just sick of Eve. I think that's my problem.
Really?
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Eve's just become like the anime opening band, and now I'm done.
I mean, he did Jujutsu Kaisen, and he did the last Chainsaw Man ending. What else has he done before this?
That's a good question, but I don't know.
Because I feel like one series does not make the
Those
anime.
are 3 major series, though.
Well. The one series is Jujutsu Kaisen because he had one song that played for one episode in Chainsaw Man. And,
right, Chainsaw Man did that. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's basically this is the second one of I'm probably forgetting some, but that's kind of how I see it.
They did a Dororo ending. I'm trying to see what else.
I forgot a few rows.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, yeah, by the numbers, not that many things, but I don't know. Maybe I just am still on this like thing where I wish My Hero would actually like lean into its like darker atmosphere for the last season or two.
I feel like it has been, like, at least with this current season, because we are in the fucking aftermath of just the biggest tragedy in human existence, I'm assuming. And so many people died, and everyone has lost faith in the heroes. But yeah, at the same time, it doesn't really feel as dark as it actually is, I guess. Because then you've got like stuff like The Boys, where shit is happening at a much smaller scale than what has happened in My Hero, and it just feels so much more hopeless and gritty. And it still feels like normal My Hero Academia a little, but we are actually having insane consequences and the resurfacing of a lot of characters we haven't seen in a long time, like Moonfish, who's my favorite.
As soon as Moonfish appeared, I'm like, all right, DJ's gonna bump this show up.
I fucking jumped. I didn't expect to ever see him again. And I was so happy. As soon as his teeth come out, I was like, oh fuck.
Number one Moonfish fan.
Oh, he's great.
I was gonna say you weren't excited for Stain coming back, but Moonfish, that's
whatever. Moonfish, though, no, step aside. The real antagonist. Moonfish is gonna kill everybody.
Sheesh.
We're probably never going to see him again. Yeah, no, I'm having fun with My Hero for the first time in a long time. And it's cool seeing a different direction that the series is finally taking after it stagnated for so long. I am starting to understand now why it ended when it did, because when people first started talking about, oh, the manga's ending, like they were still just in school for me. And I was like, how the fuck does that work? Like what must happen between now and the end of the manga? And I get it now. So that's cool. I still feel like even though we're like in the hundreds of episode titles, that I don't know if it, like I was expecting something longer.
I mean, the manga is still running.
I thought it ended.
No. It's just been on the final arc for like 5 years, Shonen Jump manga tend to do.
God, yeah, Negima did that too.
Just from the most recent stuff, it doesn't feel like the manga will end for another year or two.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, because when I first started this, I was expecting to just be watching it for the next fucking like 10 or 15 years. And I don't know how many years it's been, but I've only been watching it for like 4. So
7 years,
Yeah.
I feel like anytime the Todoroki family is in center stage, like the show is always at its peak form.
Making him the protagonist was a bad move. He's just, Shoto is so good. He's such a good character.
Definitely.
And it's weird that he's just like a side arc. Like an important side arc nonetheless, but I mean, he gets more fucking screen time than Bakugo gets. And Bakugo is like the childhood friend guy.
Yeah.
And the rival. And it's just we've got this other guy who just gets so much screen time and just kind of is another guy in class.
And like
when does the childhood friend ever win?
Yeah, well, the rival is usually the second most important character. But yeah, and Shoto like wasn't really in the first season. Like he wasn't a character in the first season. He was just in class. It wasn't until the second season that he became a major character. And then ever since then, I don't know, I guess Horikoshi was like, oh, this is a good character I have now. I should use him more.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Good for David Matranga.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm happy. He had a win. All right. What else we got? Can probably start winding down. We're almost at the 2-hour mark, and there's not really anything else that I'm excited to talk about, I don't think.
Okay.
Blue Lock's still good.
Yeah, I'll read Kane's a little bit about Blue Lock. His last thing, he said, kind of surprised they went with Baro. Spoilers, although if you're not watching it, you have no idea what that means. I get it strategically, but the dude is total locker room cancer. No teamwork, no synergy, no nothing. Sans raw skill. Which I
like his hyper focus on that one point.
I know. Yeah,
that's exactly what they're looking for in Blue Lock.
Yes.
What I would have done strategically is I would have gone with fucking, what's his name? Even the Naruhaya. He's so unremarkable that after his episode, I still barely remembered his name.
At least he's a character now.
Yeah. And, I'm glad he was, because I complained so many times about him existing. I don't know his name, and now he's gone. But yeah, I probably would have picked him over Baro just to get fucking Baro out of there, because he's competition.
That was my thought as well.
Yeah, it's like I thought it could go either way.
Yeah.
But as soon as they did pick Baro, I was like, you know what, that does make more sense. Like, you are guaranteeing yourself a spot if you've got the king. Yeah, it makes sense. It's cool seeing more quote unquote main characters getting moved out of the show, though, and I'm sure that maybe the other unremarkable brown-haired guy will be gone soon too. That's my next prediction for Blue Lock.
Yeah, they're definitely doing a good job at just continuing to mix up the cast with people constantly switching back and forth between, being allies and antagonists. And yeah, I think they did a good job at balancing that expectation of not really knowing who they would pick, because there are legitimate pros and cons for both. And the normal shonen sports anime choice would be Naruhaya, but the Blue Lock choice is Baro. So it makes sense that they did go with that. But yeah, there's definitely that question of like, are they gonna eliminate the competition? Are they going to get rid of this absolute cancer of a potential teammate who would just like get in their way and not let them shine? So yeah, it was definitely.
They showed Naruhai's backstory, so it was over as soon as that happened. Like as soon as his backstory started, I was like, okay, you're gone.
Raising the death flags immediately.
Yeah. Anytime a backstory shows up, that character's on the way out.
Yeah. The new OP's a banger.
I think I like the first one more.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to get used to the new one. I definitely like the Unison Square Garden more now, or more so far, but at least we have them back for the ending.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, it's good. Anything else we want to quickly go through?
I'll just say that Bones knows how to make a mean prequel arc, because this first 3 episodes of the new Bungo Stray Dogs is really good, and I would say my other favorite part of the series so far was the flashback arc in the second season.
Yes, which is also the first 3 episodes of that season.
Yeah, so this could easily like middle out by the mid or end point of the season, but so far it's really good. And this is one of those shows that falls off. Like I totally forget about it after it ends, and then when it comes back, I'm like, oh shit, I am watching this, and then I forgot I really enjoy it till it's on again. But it's somehow that's the other thing too, is like I always think that the way we're talking about how like Mappa, well, you can obviously see where it treats some shows compared to others. And I don't know how this show gets as much production value as it does. Like, I don't.
It is really popular.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was that popular because I don't really see anyone talking about it anymore. But goddamn, this show looks insane.
I think it's got a big Fujoshi community.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because like we've gotten 4 TV series, a spin-off series, 2 movies. No, one movie. I think it got a live action movie too. But yeah, like that's a lot of content for, when did it start? 2016 maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's clearly working for them because they just keep coming back to it. And yeah, those every other season, first 3 episodes, flashback arcs are always, incredible. I agree that those 2 specifically have been the best parts of the series so far.
Yeah, I'm honestly not that interested in the main character. So like,
I mean, like, I can't even remember his name. Atsushi Nakajima, main character. Nakajima is kind of boring. I don't care about him at all. Dazai is fun. But yeah, I think when we get into some of his like darker side and some of his backstory, and how that relates to, the other characters, the antagonists, Port Mafia, all that can be really interesting. But yeah, Nakajima and the normal antics of the main cast, usually pretty boring. So yeah, hopefully I always enjoy it. Even the silly little spin-off I enjoyed. So I'm down for whatever it does. The movie too, I was a fan of that. So,
the movie was fun.
And yeah, it always looks great. The music's always great. So it's definitely always worth watching. But yeah, I hope that it doesn't feel like it goes downhill after the prologue arc like it did for the previous prologue arc.
Yeah, I can't even remember if like, does the movie take place between the second and third season or after the third season? I'm trying to like even remember what happened.
Yeah, I think after the third season. I'm trying to remember where there was like a significant gap in time. I think it was after the third season. No, third season was 2019 and the movie was 2018. So yeah, I guess it's between 2 and 3.
Now I'm remembering. Yeah, I remember they were really just getting into this one, the new like main antagonist, the Dachevsky dude or whatever. So
right. Yeah.
I think they teased him at the end of that
Mhm.
third episode. So okay, starting to remember where the show is going.
Right. Yeah, it's a few years off in between each season, so it can be hard to remember all the little beats.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to where it goes. It has a lot of potential and a lot of good pieces in play.
Yes.
So yeah, that's your top of the season, huh?
Yeah, for now.
Nice. Yeah, that and Vinland Saga are kind of like the only things that I like really care about this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
One
like
Piece lonely at the top.
yeah, well, that's generally yeah, I mean,
I love the day where One Piece is not at the top of Kestrel's season, right?
When it's not, it's a good season. Like last season, I had like one or two shows on top of One Piece, even though One Piece was spectacular that season. But if it's like a mess season, even if there's some like really top tier stuff like Vinland Saga, yeah, you'll see One Piece at the top, especially like the last month or two of One Piece have been like almost all incredible episodes.
I need to watch this week's episode because I've seen a lot of what's his name, Vincent Chansard.
Yeah,
his cut looks insane. So
yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's like the last 30 seconds of the episode, and none of the rest of it looks nearly as good. But yeah, everything he does in the episode, everything leading up to that, the direction, storyboarding, choreography is all really top notch. But most of the episode is not that. But it's still a really good episode.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. But yeah, One Piece is great. But I like seasons where One Piece is not number one because it means we've got some really good stuff. And this is not one of those seasons.
Yeah.
But Vinland Saga's back, so I'm happy.
We don't have to talk about it all, but I thought it was interesting this high card show. I didn't even realize it was made by the person who made Kakegurui. So I was like, oh, they're just like really into this whole gambling thing, I guess.
Big gambling fan.
But this one has like, it's like superpowers or like the cards have abilities or something?
Yes. The cards are like their superpowers, basically. They can like unlock their powers, and like one dude is like he can use his card to like exchange money for something of equal value, and the main dude it's a gun. His card turns into a gun and he can shoot people. Now there's more to it than that, but yeah, and it plays with like luck a lot, and I don't know, it has some interesting ideas, but it's like I think it's an original project or like a mixed media thing, and it's one of those series that you feel like they had this idea that's not exactly original, but they thought it was really cool, and they didn't think for more than a few minutes about how to implement it, and so you just get like kind of your standard tropes going through the motions about how this would work in like a kind of, I don't know, not detective agency, I guess, but you know, that kind of dynamic. And the point, I guess, is how they use the cards and their powers interestingly, and how it plays with concepts of luck and that kind of stuff. But it's not that interesting. And I don't remember if the first two were quite so jarring, but the third episode looked bad. Like, I don't know if the production values just went downhill really quickly, but yeah, it was not looking good. So no real desire to continue with that. But if you want just like dumb fun, it's probably the purest dumb fun you'll get this season.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably skip on it too.
I just noticed, DJ, are you not watching Majirevo?
I'm not. And you know, somebody else commented on that. I don't know if I just like skipped over the synopsis of that series. But yeah. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Should I?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is legitimately really good. The main character is absolutely delightful, and she is the gayest character in years.
Awesome. Yeah. Since you're the second person who has said that to me, I'll add it to the list. Not like I'm already watching fucking 21 things.
Like, because I was looking at your list and I'm like, wow, Machurevo was in the top 5. It's not in the top 10. Oh, he's not watching it. That's why.
Yeah. I think I passed over it or something. I don't know. That just happens sometimes where there's like a thing I'll really enjoy and it just completely flies over my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you will like that a lot, especially like when it gets into the second and third episode.
That Crunchyroll or High Dive? Crunchyroll. Okay.
Yep. Okay. I think we've covered most of all of our top picks. So unless anyone has anything significant to say about anything else, we can move along.
No, I think we killed it.
Cool.
Recommendations?
Yeah, I've got 2, but before I say my first one, I've got to ask you guys a question. Have either of you heard of a baby box or a baby hatch before?
No.
A baby hatch?
Yeah, okay, so there's this thing called a baby box or a baby hatch that a lot of churches or hospitals in foreign countries will have for mothers who do not want their children to just put them in a box and just let the church take care of it or whatever.
It's like dropping off a kid at like a fire station or whatever.
It's like returning a library book, but baby.
Yeah.
And so that's not my recommendation, but
but
there is a movie called Broker that just came out by Hirokazu Koreeda, featuring Song Kang-ho from Parasite. And it's about these 2 dudes who steal a baby from a baby box and try to sell it on the black market. And then the mother comes back for the baby and she obviously wanted to get rid of it. And she winds up going with the 2 guys on like a journey to find adoptive parents for the baby. And it's a really good movie. It's a Korean movie, obviously, because Song Kang-ho's in it. But yeah, it's like a fun journey movie that does a weird thing in making the people selling the baby the good guys and the detectives trailing them the bad guys, but it works because they're just all really likable people, and it's a fun, heartwarming family movie about, I guess, dealing with your past and shit like that. Really good, really open-ended ending that I still have to try and make sense of, but I recommend that. And I've got one more unconventional recommendation on top of that for a curated Japanese snack subscription box called Sakurako that I recently subscribed to. That is awesome. They take a lot of like traditional Japanese confections and snacks from different prefectures, and they just send you a box of them every month with lists of where they come from and what the snacks are. And it's really it's a good way for Americans to, I guess, learn more about Japanese culture, specifically how each prefecture has its own things that are different. And that's like $35 a month, but you get a ton of shit in there, and it's really good. And that's called Sakurako again.
I haven't done one of those in a while. I should try one again.
I love subscription boxes. They're my favorite thing.
I'm always tempted to, but it always just seems like such a waste of money for just a gimmick. But
yeah, I feel like that is true for most of them, but I think that Sakurako in particular is really good value because you get a ton of shit and you get like a whole ass booklet about just the history of like my last box was from Niigata, and so I have like a whole Niigata box of fucking stuff now and information about it, and like that the lists of the store names if I'm ever in Niigata and want to go get the snacks myself. And you get like gifts and shit too. Like I got a sake cup in my last one. It was cool. And that's $35. So it's definitely worth it for that. But my $55 energy drink subscription box, probably a little overpriced.
Oof. I mean, energy drinks aren't cheap, so maybe the value's there.
Yeah, it's just fun. I'm paying for the fun. I can buy drinks for cheaper. I like the excitement.
Right.
I like the candy lore.
Yeah, that's cool.
The candy lore is my favorite part.
I will say your movie recommendation kind of just sounds like live action Buddy Daddies to me.
Oh, they're trying to sell a baby. They're not trying to sell Mary.
We're only 2 or 3 episodes in. We don't know what they're gonna do.
That's true.
But when he first started talking about it, I was thinking Tokyo Godfathers, but
yeah.
Yeah. This was generally a good movie.
Yeah.
I don't really have any recommendations, so you can go for it, Cass.
Yeah, I don't have many for like new anime releases from this month. Maybe the one thing I'll say is if you can still find a copy of it out there, the Yu Yu Hakusho 30th anniversary box set. I just got mine yesterday. It is really nice. I paid like 80 or 90 bucks, I think. And it's got all 112 episodes on Blu-ray. And it is the only way you can buy or see legally the new OVAs that came out like 5 years ago. Yeah, so that's super cool. And it's just like a really nice hard chipboard box with like really slick designs and holographic shininess and like embossing layers on all the text and stuff and character art. It looks and feels really nice. But it's mostly unavailable. It's like popping in and out of Right Stuff and Crunchyroll store every now and then. So if you're interested in that and find it when it's available, check that out. I'll also mention, since we never got the opportunity to talk about it on the podcast, since it was not simulcast, Summertime Rendering is on Hulu, and it is all really good. So check that out. And my least relevant but most important recommendation is The Last of Us on HBO and HBO Max. Everything we've talked about, like adapting video games, if you've been waiting for the good, the great, the perfect video game adaptation, especially for live action, especially for like a straight adaptation, holy shit, this is it. And
yeah, it's good.
It had every right to be, because the game was, you got the sense of playing a video game, but it was also very filmic in its presentation. It felt very much like a TV drama, an HBO drama, or a film. And the TV series does an excellent job at combining that with, still feeling like the video game in all the ways that it should, but balancing it so that, you feel like you're watching a series. I think it should be just as accessible to anyone who hasn't played the games. They are making small changes where it fits the medium better, and it absolutely does. I think, everyone involved in it, like when it was announced, I'm like, this is an incredible lineup. They cannot fuck this up. It's going to be amazing. And it is. It's the guy who did Chernobyl and the guy who wrote the actual game. And yeah, it is just everything that you could ask for from an adaptation, especially for that source material.
I feel like Neil Druckmann was made to be like a TV writer before even like a video game creator.
100% agree. Yeah.
I unfortunately didn't have a PS3 or PS4, so I have not gotten to play those games. So I think I'm just going to watch the show, because that sounds like a great way to actually experience it.
Totally. Yeah, I think both ways are just as good of a way to experience it, and either one can come second and be a great complement to the first. Like it is the feeling that you get when you play the game without, just feeling like you're watching someone play a game. Like it is immersive in the same way, it is filmic in the same way, and more, because it gets to be cinematic in the way that actual cinema can be. And they've just recreated the atmosphere and the sets and the props like just perfectly from the video game. Like, I only played it a few years ago, so it's relatively fresh in my memory. It hasn't been like a decade. And just each new scene that they go to, I just feel like this visceral nostalgia of like, oh yeah, this feels exactly like it did then. Yeah, it's incredible.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. That's our podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review anywhere that you find your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Alexa, Amazon Music, Facebook Podcasts, fandompost.com. You can follow us on social media. We don't really have any upcoming topics planned out, so if you got any topic ideas or discussion points or opinions, send them our way. We're on Twitter and Facebook at Fandom Post Radio. You can email us, fandompostradio@gmail.com. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Fullmetal Kyoma. I probably haven't posted anything. I posted a Attack on Titan joke. Other than that, I probably haven't posted anything in the past month or two.
You can find me on Twitter at DJ No Style. You can find my game at lessonsandlovegame.com. And that's it.
I'm at Hellshake Brando on socials, on all that stuff, and I sometimes write manga reviews for the Fandom Post, so keep an eye out for that stuff.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for listening. We will be back at some point talking about something, I'm sure. So if you got any ideas, send them our way. Otherwise, just check back with us next time. See ya.
Peace out.
Adios.